He said, who did not spare his own son, but delivered him over for us all? How will he not also with him freely give us all things? Do you know who the all is? He's talking about us. When he says all, when you see in the Bible and it's talking about God for all, that means everybody. That means dude that you hate. Girls, y'all know y'all have some dude that is in your class that you like, I hate him. It's not because we have this love-like thing going on, like I think he's cute, I just ain't gonna go with him type deal. Like, no, you should not have been born. Him. For that man that broke your heart and you are struggling. Him. For that father that you're confused about, how he's never been there. For him. For that mother that you stuck with. For her. For everybody that has ever looked down on you, for everybody that has ever caused you pain, for them. And you know the reality is, you have been that somebody to somebody else, and guess what? It was for you too. It's the truest love. He said, he who did not spare his own son. Last night, if you were here, you saw a beautiful family of 2 beautiful daughters and 1 son. 2 beautiful daughters and 1 son. 1 son who continues to grow. He begins to look like me, and I pray for the world, he acts like me. Y'all don't know. 2 beautiful daughters and 1 son. If God were to come down right now and to stand right beside me and say, T, man, do you want baby girl right here to go to heaven? Yes, sir, I do. Do you want Kim to go to heaven? Yes, I do. You want Lexus to go to heaven? Yes, sir, yes, I do. You want my man to go to heaven? Yes, I do. Do you want him to go? Lord, you know I do. Do you want baby girl right there to go to heaven? Father, come on. Yeah, I do. That's good. That's good. All you got to do is give up your son. You got 2 beautiful daughters, but give up your son. One who looks like you, walks like you, talks like you, acts like you. The one you put to bed every night, the one that you look at the tags on his clothes to see if he has outgrown them for the year, the one that you wash his socks, the ones that you teach how to play basketball, the one that you spend time with, the one that lights up your heart when you see him running out of the school and he's running to you and runs into your arms every day. That one right there, if you want them to go to heaven, give him up. And I'm not talking about put him away in a prison somewhere, put him in a closet and lock the door and you never see him again. Not to send him away to a foster care home and you know he's being taken care of. You just can't live with him. I'm not talking about him moving out of town. I'm not even talking about him catching a deadly disease and him dying in his sleep. I'm talking about the very people that you hate, the ones that reject you, everybody that has ever looked down on you, everybody that has turned their back on you. You have to watch them kill your son. I'd have to say, I can't do that. As much as I would want everybody in here to go, I can't. Paul says, God did. He said, you want proof? He says it right here. He said, he did not spare his own son. John 3:16 said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. The son that is spoken of in Genesis in the beginning. God created heaven and earth, but the Bible said, let us create man. Who was he speaking to? His son. But for you and for me, he didn't spare his own son. You want evidence that God loves you. You want evidence that God will love you more than the father that walked out on you, love you more than the mother that's with you. You want evidence that God will love you more than anybody that has ever come into your life. Paul said, look what he's done for you before you were born. Before you committed that sin that you think that everybody knows about, the one that you committed and you know nobody else knows about, that you pray nobody ever finds out about, the sin that is in the back of my mind right now as I'm preaching to you about the love of God that I hope you never find out about. Christ knew about it and he died anyway. Yeah. It's not a love you've ever seen before, but it's a love that you can have. Some of you right now, you can't see it. You can't see it. It's that far away from you. But I've been telling you all week, don't feel bad because everybody in this room at some point was where you are. They didn't understand. They didn't know. They rejected God. They turned away from him. They turned their back on him. They came to church and went out and sinned anyway. They came and they heard the preacher preach. They sang songs and they did all of the churchy type stuff and they turned around and walked out on him. There's plenty of people in here that done that. Plenty of people that are struggling the way you are right now, trying to understand and trying to feel, I'm not tripping on you. I'm not judging you. I'm telling you that somehow, by the power of God, you are sitting here hearing about his love. You go home and figure that out. My man said, you remember all the stuff that you used to do on Friday? How many of us in here right now are thinking of all the stuff we could be doing? Thank you, my sir. But for some reason, man, we here talking about the love of God. It is because Paul was convinced everybody should hear. He took time, man, to write this letter, and I have taken time, pastor has taken time, the youth workers have taken the time, man, to have this revival. It is not to raise money for the church. It is not so that you can show off your T-shirts. It is not so that we can highlight the gift that these brothers had. It is so that you can hear about the love of God. Somebody in this room right now is standing on the borderline of a life decision that will totally change the course of your future. It is not that we serve a God that will give up on you. It is not that we serve a God that cannot redeem you from mistakes that you make, but we do have a God that will give you life more abundantly way before you have to go through all of that stuff. That's why you're here right now. That's why you're here at a youth revival, because you got a whole bunch of people in here that probably would, some of the grades we got in our head, we probably wouldn't have had it if we'd have listened when we were your age.